And welcome everyone to a special edition of the Kris McCullough Show. I'm your host, Monty Montgomery, and of course along with me is the star of our show, the head football coach of the UTPB Falcon football team, Kris McCullough. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Monty, it's good to be back on. It's been a while.
It has been, and we're here to talk about the spring season that's upcoming starting March 18th, and we're going to go over that schedule. But first we're going to talk about the signees that you have that are transferred in. They're going to be here for spring ball, and then we'll talk about the high school signees. So can we talk a little bit about these guys, and how would you like to do this? Just go down the list as it is?
Let's just start at the top of the transfer list and work our way
Let me
down.
put on my specs. Cash Walker, a tight end, 6'4", 235 pounds, transfer from Colorado Mesa, originally from Grand Junction, Colorado. What can you tell us about Cash?
Yeah, Cash is obviously, like you said, from Colorado, where we've struggled a little bit against Colorado teams, minus the Adams State game last year. But always a state that has great tight ends, great offensive line, defensive line guys, and Cash comes in and has the frame, has had a remarkable offseason so far in the weight room, has really gotten stronger. So look for him to play a significant role in special teams and obviously play our off-the-ball tight end as well.
And these transfers that are coming this spring, you're expecting to play immediately.
Oh, absolutely. All of these guys have to give us some reps in the fall for sure.
Second tight end will be Caleb Sedigan.
Yeah.
He is a 6'5", 255-pound tight end originally from Longmont, Colorado, but transferred here from Dodge City, Kansas, where our former offensive coordinator Ryan Lusby is.
Yeah, Ryan obviously probably runs a very similar offense to us. Terminology is a lot of the same as what Caleb says. So, that plays a huge role for us in the knowing of the offense. Man, he came in and immediately knew formations, knew the calls. So that helps with spring ball as well. Doesn't have to be taught as much, but very physical. This kid's a lot like Matt Zubiotti in the run game and in the pass game, can do it all for us. The only difference is he's about 2 inches taller and about 15 pounds heavier. So I expect Caleb to be, if not our starter, at least in our 2 deep.
Okay. Next up will be an offensive lineman from New Bedford, Pennsylvania, 6'5", 315 pounds, transferred from Morehead State, Torben Eakins.
Yeah, Torben's a big tackle body, started games at the FCS level, obviously from Pennsylvania, so it's a little bit different out here in West Texas. But he's had a great offseason in the weight room. He's a guy who was going for 300-pound power clean, so he's explosive. So I look forward to seeing his development over the next few weeks, but I think he's a guy that can definitely start on our offensive line.
And then a 6 foot, 205-pound linebacker from New Oxford, Pennsylvania, transferred from Morehead State, Britton Eakins.
Yeah, his brother.
They twins?
No, they are not. But Britton came to us originally as a running back. We moved him to linebacker. He's recovering from injury, but I look forward to seeing him once he gets that boot off, see what he can do.
Okay. Next up will be a 6 foot, 280-pound wide receiver from Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, from Iowa Central, which is a junior college there, correct?
Yes.
And it's Austin Iobamidel.
Yeah.
Did I say that right?
Close enough for me.
Austin will get better, I promise.
Absolutely. I call him Austin A, but super fast kid. Quick twitch, can play inside, can play outside, can do it all. Reminds me a lot of Jawan Mason and how he plays. That type of speed.
That is
only
incredible
difference
speed.
He's 6 foot, but he works hard. He's a very quiet kid. He's not going to say 2 words to you unless you say it to him, but he does work his tail off, and that's all we could ask for.
Next up is a 6'3", 315-pound offensive lineman, originally from Frisco, Texas, comes to us from East Texas A&M and Commerce, Kyle Lofe.
Yeah, Kyle played, again, FCS football, started games for him. I think he's a guy that can make an immediate impact, can play all 5 positions. He's barrel-chested, so he's strong. We're doing all our testing stuff in the weight room right now, but once we start spring ball, I'm excited to see what he does for us.
Next up, 6'4", 300-pound offensive lineman, originally from Chico, California, came to us from a California JUCO called Butte Community College, Angel Valencia.
Yeah, he's another kid that can play all 5 positions. He can snap, he can play tackle. We like those kids that can obviously move around and not just be limited to guard or tackle, but he can do it all 5. And he's continuously getting stronger in the weight room. I think that's one key piece for him that we had to work on. But he's a guy that throughout spring ball, he's going to be able to play all 5 positions, and we'll see what fits him best.
So in preparation for spring training, let's stop right here a minute. What have you had these spring recruits doing? They're not coming in and just sitting around. They're coming in and working their fannies off. What are they doing with Jared Human?
Yeah, I mean, they went through our 7-week program just like everybody else. Come in, you try to see how strong they are and how much they develop. But we did our maxes last week, and a couple guys will max on Monday when we come back for the bench max. But these guys are working their tails off. They're going through the Friday morning mat drills like everybody else. They're doing everything we could ask them to do.
So there's weightlifting, there's conditioning, running. There's a complete program for you to be able to evaluate these men and see what they're capable of and where they need to improve.
Yeah, and Jared's done a great job. Jared's probably the best speed guy I've ever been around as far as strength and conditioning. We definitely gotten stronger. We focused more this offseason on the strength side of things, not necessarily the speed and the running side of things, and I think it's paying dividends, and we'll see here this spring.
Okay. Next up will be 6-foot wide receiver, weighs 215 pounds, originally from Plainfield, Illinois, transferred from an FBS school, Bowling Green, Jalen Tillman.
Yeah, Tillman was at Bowling Green, but before that was at Grand Valley State. Great football player, started games at Grand Valley, started games at Bowling Green. I think when you compare him to other people that's been here, very Jeremiah Cooley-ish, big possession receiver, uses his body well to high point the football, can catch it across the middle. I think this kid may be able to break a tackle or two more than Jeremiah did, but hard worker and has done nothing but come in and work his tail off to prove himself. You know, a lot of FBS transfers come into their new programs and think they're the stuff. This kid just put his head down and got to work, and I respect him tremendously, and he's going to be a huge asset for us.
Sounds like he's getting respect in the locker room, too.
Absolutely.
With worth ethic. An offensive lineman, 6'5", 320-pound offensive lineman from Fort Worth, transferred from Southwest Baptist, a program we've played recently, Braylon Stewart.
Yeah, Braylon's a freshman, so still has plenty of time to develop.
Okay.
I mean, you can't teach 6'5", 320.
No.
So he's continuously working his tail off in the weight room, and I expect him to, not just this year, but continue to get better and better every single year and have a pretty good career here at UTPB.
Next up is a young man that I have not met, but I've seen around because you cannot miss him. He's from Chicago, Illinois. He's 6'8", 330-pound offensive lineman, transferred from Iowa Western, who won the national championship in JUCO ball year before last and was in the finals this year. Dane Hansen.
Yeah, Dane is all of 6'8", 340. He's actually lost weight here, so he's down to 320. The kid's working his tail off, I'll tell you that. I mean, he doesn't he can't even walk around the facility without breaking a sweat. But he's putting on the mass that we want in the sense of getting his muscle toned in. But Dane's got every tool that we need him to be a huge player for us, and has NFL measurables. When he was at Iowa Western in the national championship, you know, you had Hutch and you had Iowa Western, and he's the biggest kid on the field. It's not even close. So he just has to continuously get better, both with his feet, with his knowledge of the game, but continue to get stronger as well.
He is a presence, I will tell you that. Next up will be a kid that a young man, I should say, we're very familiar with. 6 foot, 185-pound safety from Rockwall, Texas. He was with the program, transferred to Texas State, and he's back. Lane Horak.
Yeah, Lane had a remarkable freshman year before I got here. I think he started 7 or 8 games. And then when we got here, he was an immediate guy that we thought would be a huge player for us. And then he gets hurt against Southwest Baptist early in that season, and we didn't see as much of him as we wanted to. But, you know, he transferred to Texas State and decided to come back, saw that the culture here is special. And these kids that leave, eventually they all want to come back because of how special it is here. We built it up that way. But Lane's come back. He's working his tail off. He's gained the respect back of the locker room. But Lane's going to play a lot of games for us. There's no doubt.
Well, in the words of DeAndre Robinson, the former Falcon great defensive back, he said, Monty, you need one crazy white boy that plays like his hair is on fire and he doesn't feel pain. And he says, Lane Horak fits that mold.
Yeah, Lane will run through a brick wall no matter what. So Lane's a hard worker, and you just tell Lane what to do, and he's going to do it at full speed every single time.
I'm glad he's back. I haven't seen him, but he was a great kid, and he was great to be around. I'm glad he's back. Next up is a 6'4", 185-pound wide receiver from San Antonio, Texas, who's a transfer from Eastern New Mexico and then Coastal Carolina, Andre Jones. You've mentioned him to me previously.
Yeah, Andre had 2 touchdowns against us my first year here in 2023. All of 6'3", 6'4", long kid that has a good stride, can run. He's battling an injury right now, so he's not going to go through spring ball all the way. But he's a kid that I see definitely helping us in our offense and being a all-conference caliber kid in our system.
Then next up, we have a cornerback, 6'3", 190 pounds from Crenshaw, California, from the University of Mary, which is in North Dakota, I believe.
South Dakota.
All right. And Coach Bradshaw.
Yeah, Coach East came here. He was a junior college kid before U Mary. He's never really been in the weight room, so he's continuously staying in there and getting stronger and developing. He's got the frame. I mean, when you think about college football, you try to see the big picture and see, can we get a 6'2", 6'3" corner that can move around well enough. Well, we play enough zone that I think using his frame can benefit us. So we'll see how he develops.
Most of the cornerbacks in the Lone Star Conference are somewhere between usually 5'8", 5'10", faster than the wind, meaner than snakes. But it's really nice to have one that has his size.
Yeah, especially, we're a team that plays both zone and man. So when
Right.
we go into our zone packages, having that length to the field can benefit us greatly.
And then here's one of the most heralded recruits you got this fall from Wink, Texas, a kid that's well known in the Permian Basin for his success. He played high school ball for his dad at Wink. He's 6 foot, 190-pound transfer from West Texas A&M, Cannon Gibson.
Yeah, we weren't looking to bring in a quarterback. I feel pretty good about Isaac Mooring and Christian Kapua and their development. But he entered the portal and he was looking for a place and wanted to come closer to home. And we, once he hit the portal, we brought him in on a visit, and it was a job interview. I mean, we set him in a room full of coaches, players, our leaders of the team, because we had to make sure it's the right fit. When you bring in a transfer quarterback, does he fit what we're trying to be? He's from Wink, and him versus Kenny Hernser in the Wink Bowl 2 years ago. I mean, he lit it up against us. He played well. Kind of up and down first 2 years of his career, but I think the upside for Cannon Gibson is tremendous, and he could be one of the best players in the conference. He just got to continue to grow and develop in the weight room and on the field. But he's got a special future, that's for sure.
On days like today when it's dusty, he's probably out there throwing, just spitting dirt out, going, run it again, boys.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's nasty out there. Next up is a wide receiver, 6'1", 190 pounds from Roswell, New Mexico, a transfer from New Mexico Military Institute, a junior college we're familiar with out here because of the WAC-JAC conference. And they won a national championship about 3 years ago, I believe. Diego Nunez.
Yeah, Diego is another guy that can play inside, can play outside, very smart, intelligent football player, uses his body well. He's a kid that's going to play on all the special teams. He's going to be a valuable asset. I mean, he's a lot like Gunner in the sense of can do it all for us. Good, strong hands, just continue to develop.
Gunner Absack, who's now one of your GAs. Yeah, Gunner kind of set the bar high for punt returners, kick returners at UT.
He was a special player, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, next up is a 6'1", 270-pound defensive lineman from Odessa, Texas, who is a transfer from Eastern New Mexico, Brian Pry.
Yeah, Pry, coming out of high school, was a very good defensive lineman. Wound up going to Eastern New Mexico, but another kid that went somewhere and realized that what we have here is pretty special, and people hear about it and wanted to come back home, and we welcomed him with open arms.
So he ought to be very active on that defensive line.
Yeah.
He was at Permian, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
He's a guy that can play
dominant.
the 3-tech. He can play a stand-up jack. Just depends on how much weight he puts on, but I see him developing well in the future and possibly playing here in the near future.
All right. Next up will be a 6'4", 280-pound offensive lineman from Chico, California, transferred from College of the Sequoias, Carson Seaman.
Yeah, Carson was an all-state kid in California. He's a kid that probably with different junior college requirements to go to Division I. Definitely would have went Division I, but had to go Division II, and we're grateful because this kid, I mean, when he steps foot on campus, because he's not here yet, but he has signed with us. When he gets here, he's going to be a kid that is going to make an immediate impact, and we'll probably start on our offensive line somewhere. I look forward to having him here. He's a former teammate of Tyler Ball, so they have that relationship. So I'm excited to get Carson here. The other one that I want to talk about is Amir Johnson from Iowa Western transfer, center guard guy. Another kid that signed with us isn't here yet. He's at home rehabbing, but Amir Johnson will be a kid that can play right away for us and make an immediate impact on our interior O-line.
Do you already have an idea where you're going to slot these individual offensive linemen? Because we've kind of been generic in saying offensive linemen. Because in today's college football world, you may be a tackle today, but you may be a guard tomorrow. So is that something that you have that flexibility with these guys?
Yeah, our job as coaches is to put the best five on the field. We got to find the best five and where they can be the most successful at, whether it's center, guard, tackle. Our job is just to figure out who's the best five and how to place them to get the most out of them. But when we have 8, 9, 10 guys that we feel good about, it's a good situation, which we haven't had in my first 2 years here. So building that depth on the offensive line is huge and critical. But we just got to find the best five and find a way to get them out there.
Okay. With that, we'll take a short break, come back on the other side with a special edition of the Kris McCullough Show.
Check, a 1 or 2, I'm going in, is that a L? W is still a win. Got it off the muscle, all I know is hustle. All I know is making something out of nothing. What you think they see it? I had to hop in the kitchen, I'm really on fire, you know ignited, yeah. I know some people don't like it, I'm moving with flavor, they probably a bite it, yeah. Trendsetter, being better, I can't take the credit, yeah, wait. Yeah, been on fire, boy, that's flambe. Only time you see my head down is when I'm praying. When my back is turned on, only time they wanna see.
We're back with a special edition of the Kris McCullough Show. I'm your host, Monty Montgomery. Of course, with me is the head football coach of the University of Texas Permian Basin Falcon football team, Kris McCullough. And we've just wrapped up the spring signees, the guys that transferred in immediately at the beginning of this year to go through spring ball. Now we're going to talk about our high school signees. And I'm going to start off with a young man that I find very curious. You said not to mention hometowns. I got to do this, Coach. He's from Boston, Massachusetts. Gavin Brown. There's a story there, I know.
Yeah, well, first off, talking about high school recruiting, man, I still believe in this transfer portal world. You have to develop high school talent. You have to sign high school talent. We will continuously sign 30 to 35 guys from the state of Texas, which bringing up Gavin Brown, he's actually from Texas.
Oh.
I know his dad. His dad was a East Central University alum, where I previously was the head coach, and we've been coaching friends for a long time. And he wanted to get back to Texas. His dad was the Boston College defensive backs coach.
Oh.
He's now at the 49ers as a defensive backs coach in San Francisco. But, yeah, his son he's a Texas kid. He wants to get back to this area. So Gavin has the frame, has the tools to be a pretty special player, just has to come in and develop. And being a coach's kid, we know he's going to have the football IQ that we're looking for and the toughness that we're looking for our football team.
That'll be fun to see. Jordan Cartwright, a 6'3", 360-pound kicker.
Yeah, Jordan, kid that we kind of got on late in the process, but is a great punter. Is going to average probably over 40 yards a punt, which would be all-conference caliber for us. You know, we just had an all-conference punter, and Rafael Vargas did a heck of a job this past season. Before him, Sergio was an all-conference guy. So I think Jordan's that next guy that could be that guy for us from Rock Hill, where Nick Butler's from.
Oh, okay. All right. Next up is a defensive lineman, Terry Ojopago Ogo.
Yeah, Terry O is a lot like Yemi O. Very similar, 5'10" frame, 240, 250 pounds, quick twitch interior guy. He is a spitting image of what Yemi was as a freshman. So from Midland Legacy, we always know Legacy kids are tough coached and ready for the college atmosphere, and I look forward to coaching another Clint Hartman project.
Yeah. Justin Green, a 6'5", 270-pound offensive lineman.
Yeah, Justin is one of those guys that we got on early in the 25 class, and being from Permian High School, we got to see him play many times and know he has what it takes to play for us. It just has to come in and develop.
5'4" wide receiver, weighs 150-pound Malachi Michi.
Yeah, very, very tiny. But I'll tell you what, Malachi is fast. He can play running back. I think he scored 10 touchdowns at running back, 10 touchdowns at receiver. He can punt return, kick return. He's going to get lost.
Utility player.
He's definitely a utility player, and I'm big on speed, and he's got everything I'm looking for in that regard.
5'10", 225-pound linebacker Isaiah Dowden.
Yeah, Isaiah was actually a kid who, kind of a weird process, was committed to Harding University, who won a national championship 2 years ago. Fits that mold from Texarkana, Texas. Okay. We haven't signed any Texarkana kids. I'm from Arkansas, so Texarkana, I know what that football is all about. But a kid we got on late, I mean, he decommitted from Harding about 3 weeks before signing day. We got on late, got him on a visit, and he fell in love with what our program is and what our culture stands for. So excited to have him here.
Wow. Next up, a quarterback, 5'10", 180-pound quarterback by the name of Mickey Cota.
Yeah, Mikey Cota.
Mikey.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Forgive me, Mikey.
No, Mikey's a Permian Basin kid, and everybody knows that name. Not many people win the Built Ford Tough Player of the Week in Texas. And you get a nice trophy when you get that. That kid has gotten one of those awards before. He's thrown for 400 yards in a game. He's ran for 200 yards in a game. He's a dual threat kid, and if he was 6'2", we wouldn't be talking today about him, right? But he's
Doug Flutie-esque.
Yeah, I mean, he's 5'10", but he can spin it. He comes to our camps in the summer, and I always knew he could throw the ball. And again, if he was 6'1", 6'2", he'd be playing somewhere else.
Next up is a 6 foot, 180-pound safety, Dwayne Wingfield.
Yeah, Dwayne was a kid we early on saw in the recruiting process that this kid can play for us. Hard hitter, wants to come down and hit somebody in the mouth, a lot like Lane Horak. He can play the boundary, he can play the field. Excited to see how he develops.
5'11", 175-pound cornerback, Messiah Beaulieu.
Yeah, Messiah is a true coverage corner. I mean, he can play man-to-man with the best of them. He can flake off and play zone. He can tackle. He's from Lancaster, where Kendrick Jones is from. So he's a lot like Kendrick Jones in that aspect. So looking forward to getting him here and developing.
All right, a 6 foot, 250-pound linebacker, Adam White.
Adam White is that blue-collar linebacker mentality type of kid. I mean, he's going to hit you in the mouth. He's athletic enough to do a little bit of everything, but he's definitely that inside linebacker, old school 1990, early 2000 hitter.
And next up, I have to mention this. He's a 6'3", 290-pound offensive lineman from my high school alma mater, Austin Westlake. And this is the first kid I remember us ever signing from Austin Westlake.
Yeah.
Jared Reisinger.
Yeah, Jared had all of the Lone Star recruiting him. Obviously, being from Westlake is a powerhouse program, and it's tough to get those kids committed because if they're good enough to play college football, they usually go Division I FBS. So he's a kid who played significant snaps on a really good Westlake offensive line. You know that offensive line always moves the ball well. Looking forward to getting him here because I thought that was a huge addition late for us right before signing day. That can immediately make an impact. This is a kid that's going to have a shot to travel year one.
Okay. Next up is 6 foot, 210-pound linebacker, Raiden Garcia.
Yeah, Raiden is a kid who, there's always that one kid in each class that kind of commits early and then starts helping you recruit other kids. That was Raiden. Raiden was in our corner trying to get people to be Falcons, and he's definitely fully committed and bought into the family and want to know brotherhood mindset that we have.
Well, down in Angleton, which in the southwest part of the Houston area, which is, they play serious big school football down there.
Yeah.
Big guys. Next up is a 5'11", 180-pound safety, Jaden Fike.
Yeah, Jaden came to summer camp. We didn't know anything about him. Comes to camp and really works well. I thought in our camp circuit that we had this past season, he was probably one of the best ones that stood out. Moves really, really well. Fluid, quick twitch guy, can drop down and play our nickel if we need to, but I think he's going to be a really good safety for us.
Next up, 6'1", 300-pound defensive lineman, Ephraim Whitaker.
Yeah, Ephraim was another Lone Star kid, Trey Yanis, obviously Luke Miller.
From Frisco Lone Star High School.
Yeah, that we lost. It's having those kids at that program, man. I know their head coach does a really good job. So I'm glad we got Ephraim. He's a good player, highly sought after recruit. He's going to be good for us.
6'4", 260-pound offensive lineman, Jaden Manning.
Yeah, Jaden was an offensive lineman. We got committed early in the process. Has the frame, man. All of 6'3", 6'4", can put on 25 pounds of muscle and look the part. Can play guard, can play tackle. Looking forward to see what we get out of him.
And next up, a Permian Basin kid, I have to mention this, Kermit High School, 6'4", 275-pound offensive lineman, Diego Juarez.
Yeah, Diego was also the center for the basketball team. Kenny Hernster, our offensive coordinator, his dad is the head coach there for the basketball program. And Diego's a kid that's very athletic, can play.
Good feet.
Good feet. Excited to see him. He's a guy that can come in and heck, he could be a 4-year starter for us. He's that type of talent as far as athletic ability. He's just got to obviously grow his football knowledge, and we got to get in the weight room and get better in that regard. But Diego's a player that can play here.
Wow. Next up is a 6', 190-pound quarterback, Aaron DeLeon.
Yeah, Aaron was our top quarterback on the board all summer, all fall. Watching him, we were just waiting for that one offer to come as far as an FBS offer for us to lose him. But he stuck with us, man. He got some PWOs to some Division I programs, and I think
preferred walk-on.
Yeah, preferred walk-ons to some Division I programs. He's a guy that can play for us. He's going to come in and have to develop, and hopefully we can redshirt him. But I think here in 2 or 3 years, you're going to know that name a lot here.
Next up, 6'3", 210-pound linebacker, Warren Richardson.
Yeah, Warren was an FCS commit. He was committed to an FCS program. Kind of fell through late, beat Angelo, stayed on him. Angelo was after him hard. He looks the part. I mean, he's all of 6'3", 210. Will probably come in and gain 15, 20 pounds of muscle.
Looks like Rock.
Oh, yeah. He's
Jalen Rockmore.
Built just like Rock. So I look forward to seeing how he develops. I mean, he's a kid that we were highly, highly after and stayed on him through that whole process of him committing FCS. Went to the state championship at La Vega.
Yeah, Waco La Vega. Great program.
Yeah, so you know he's going to be well coached and ready for the college atmosphere.
And then the final one in this segment, 6'2", 190-pound wide receiver, Adrian Corley.
Yeah, Adrian Corley, receiver that had some injuries, battled through some of that, but definitely a kid that can play for us moving forward for sure.
With that, we're going to take a break and be back on the other side with the Kris McCullough Show, this special edition.
Come cheer on your UTPB Falcons as they compete in 14 NCAA sports. The best part? Admission is free. Don't miss a single hit, goal, home run, basket, or any minute of the action. Visit UTPBFalcons.com for schedules. Falcons up.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, with our special edition of the Kris McCullough Show. I'm your host, Monty Montgomery, along with the head football coach of the University of Texas Permian Basin Falcon football team, Kris McCullough, and we are in the middle of talking about our high school signees in this segment, and we're got 12 more to visit about. Let's start with 6'2", 175-pound quarterback, John Peoples.
It's good to have this many high school kids that we can talk about to do 2 segments.
Yep.
John Peoples, long corner, was actually committed to West Texas A&M early in the process of January, headed into February. It was always good to get a kid that wanted to go to WT, and then he came on a visit here and fell in love with it. He's a kid that I could see playing in the first 2 years of his college career for sure.
He's from another great program in San Antonio, Sam Houston High School, which has traditionally been a powerhouse down there.
Yeah.
So good school. Next up is a punter, a 5'11", 150-pound punter called Jolin Cabello.
Yeah, Jolin is another kid. Got on late in the process, another punter. Both him and Jordan Cartwright can do both. We'll see how they develop in both aspects of kicking, punting, but I think Jalon is more of a punter.
Jalon, did I say that right?
Yeah.
Sorry, Jalon.
Is more of a punter, can punt it 40 yards just like Jordan can. look forward to seeing the battles we're going to have in the specialist room. You know, those two coming in, obviously Angel Diaz and Gabriel Aguirre still being here on campus. They're going to go through spring, but when these high school kids get here, it's going to be a full competition this fall camp to see who's going to be the guy.
Next up, a 6'3", 375-pound cornerback, Sarad Bethany.
Yeah, another kid from Sam Houston High School, long kid that, you know, we like to project how they're going to develop. And with that frame, in 2 to 3 years, if he buys into our weight program and buys into what we're trying to do, he can be pretty special.
Well, that's very tall defensive backs. That's nice. I like that. A little different spin on things. Next up is a 5'11", 175-pound cornerback, Sean Battle.
Yeah, Sean Battle's a name that everybody needs to know. I think this is a kid, watching the film, interacting with him in person, this is a kid that can make an immediate impact here at UTPB. You could see him playing in those 4 games before we redshirt him his first year. I just want to get him here and see how he moves around, because his highlight tape is remarkable, and he's a kid that can definitely play here early.
Next up is a 6'2", 220-pound defensive lineman, Nicholas Elko.
Yeah, we talked about Raiden Garcia earlier, who was the guy that kind of spearheaded this class and was reaching out to guys. Nick Elko was also a kid from Katy, Texas. This kid committed early and was helping us through the process of getting these guys committed. Another kid who had a Harding offer that we had to go into battle with him and with them and a couple other really good D2 programs that ultimately chose to come to UTPB. I think it's a kid that has every tool at his disposal, just needs to gain the weight in the weight room, and I look forward to seeing his name a lot here.
And another massive offensive lineman, 6'6", 295-pound offensive lineman, Caleb Mormon.
Yep. I mean, that was the huge thing for this class, is building those trenches on the offensive line. Another kid that we had to beat Angelo State on and some other schools on. You know, I have a lot of respect for that Northwest program. I've seen some guys come out of there. I've had a defensive line come out of there a few years ago when I was at East Central. That was an all-conference kid. I know that kid's going to come in ready for college atmosphere and college football.
Justin Northwest, which was one of the fastest growing school districts right now in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and they've had a good history there.
Absolutely.
Next up is a 6', 225-pound long snapper, Carson Loeb.
Yeah, this may be the only time that Carson's talked about in this program for the next 5 years, because he's a long snapper.
Right.
Nobody wants to talk about that. And we just had a pretty good one.
Grant Gensimer.
Absolutely. That started every single game of his college career here. All-conference guy, 3 years, I believe. Long snappers, you don't talk about them, you don't think about them until they're gone, and you don't have one, and then you have to go replace them. So hopefully Carson can be that replacement that we need. You know, that's an important position, and I never had to worry about it the last 2 years of having a bad snap. You always knew it was going to be where it needed to be. Hopefully Carson can give me that same relief that I can actually sleep at night and not think about that.
Yeah, good deal. Next up, 6'3", 190-pound linebacker, Luke Sigler.
Yeah, Luke just won the state championship, was MVP
At Tatum.
of the state championship game.
Yeah,
so
I saw him
he's
play.
a hooper too. But I look forward to seeing his athleticism and what it can do to our linebacker room. You know, we have a pretty good athlete in that linebacker room right now in Tristan Exline. I think this kid's athletic like that, and I look forward to seeing him come in and see how he develops in the weight room and on the field.
Next up will be a 5'11", 190-pound running back, Ryder Clayton.
Yeah, a kid we got on late, another kid that had an Angelo offer. You know, that position, since I've been here, we haven't done a phenomenal job of getting running backs in, high school running backs. We did get a good transfer last year in Tyler Cleveland and Gerald Palmer and some of those guys, but having Corey Harris and Cam Tyler and these high school kids that developed in our program, we got to get to that style again with the running back position. So Ryder's going to come in and hopefully he can develop, and maybe we can get him to play some snaps this year. We'll see what happens.
And they can play up to 4 games and retain the red shirt.
Yes, sir.
Okay. How do you determine who's going to play? Is it because of injuries, how they're doing in practice? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, you want to see their development in fall camp and see after about 2 weeks, you kind of know these guys are ready or these guys aren't ready. But hopefully you have games where you're up late in the fourth quarter at home and you dress however many guys you want at home. but you get a chance to put them in some games. But for us, like Nick Butler was a guy we wanted to redshirt, get him those 3 games last year. And then because of injury, we had to play him. Wyatt Payne was a guy we wanted to redshirt, and because of our injuries, it didn't allow him to redshirt.
So I mean, practice is one thing, and you're banging on your teammates and all that stuff, but seeing them in game-like conditions, tell our audience how important that is to see how a kid responds, particularly a young kid, in playing college football for the first time.
Yeah, there's definitely this thing we talk about in our profession, gamers. There's kids that aren't great in practice or aren't great to the eye test, that when those lights turn on and it's game time, they can play. Cannon Gibson's one of those guys.
Yeah.
When you're just watching them out there throwing or watching them in the weight room, there's nothing special yet about him. But then when you turn on the lights, heck, we saw it for the last 2 years. He played well against us. There's those type of kids, so you never know until you get them in the game.
So it's always good to get them a little rep or two to see exactly how they respond.
Absolutely.
Okay, makes sense. All right, next up will be a 6'1", 180-pound wide receiver, Aiden Serrano.
Yeah, I've said this before. This is another kid like Sean Battle. Everybody needs to know, if you don't already know, the Aiden Serrano name here in the Permian Basin. He's a kid that he's going to play a lot of snaps. He may not redshirt this year. He may be one of those that plays every special teams rep, and he's a utility guy. He can play running back. We saw that this year at Midland Legacy. He can play any inside, outside receiver. I think wherever we put him, he's going to have success. So we just got to get him here and get him accustomed to everything here in the fall, and we'll see how he develops.
I've been told that his older brothers have worked him over so much, he is prepared and he's not scared of anybody or anything because nobody's tougher than his brothers.
Watching him play football the last 2 years, I could see that. He's one of the best Permian Basin kids I've seen play the last 2 years.
Looking forward to seeing him on the field. Next up, a 6'3", 185-pound wide receiver, Nick Jackson.
Nick is another kid that from Angleton, where Raiden Garcia is from, another kid that can play football just flat out. Inside, outside receiver, it doesn't matter. He's going to be a matchup problem. He's just got to get here, develop. We got to put some muscle on his body, but I feel good about him.
Next up is a 5'10", 175-pound cornerback, Camden Mathis.
That Mathis name probably rings a bell.
Champ's brother?
Champ, yes. Crimson as well.
Yeah.
So we got 3 Mathis brothers here. Good DeSoto pipeline.
And their dad is the head coach at DeSoto.
Yes, Coach Mathis, Claude Mathis, obviously well known in the state of Texas, both at the high school level and as a Texas State Hall of Famer running back. I mean, that whole family is bred in this football fraternity that we're all in as coaches. So having 3 Mathis brothers here is always a good thing. But Camden was a kid that had FBS programs offering him early in his junior and senior season. Just wasn't the senior season he was hoping for on the field. But I expect him to come in and work his tail off and be that guy again. Absolutely.
Okay. Next up, 6'8", 190-pound wide receiver, Cohen Peeler.
Yeah, I think on his Twitter bio it says 6'6". He's all of 6'7", 6'8", though. I mean, he's a basketball player, plays the center for their basketball team there in Arlington-Seacon. But this kid, he's a jump ball specialist. In the red zone, I mean, he's going to be 7 inches taller in every corner that he faces. So we just got to get it up there and let him go get it.
And then we've got a 5'10", 165-pound cornerback, Mac Curtis.
Yeah, Mac committed to us early in the process. Was a kid that can run. I mean, he's 5'9", 5'10", can run really well at the defensive back position. He could probably play nickel, he could play corner. Looking forward to seeing what he can do for us.
From Bay City, another long-time football traditional powerhouse in high school football here. And that's it. That wraps up our high school segment. We'll be back with our next segment here in just a few minutes.
I'm not going to have a penny of debt in my name when I graduate from this university.
Everybody's in your corner. They want to see you succeed.
With Falcon Free at UTPB, you can earn your degree for free. No loans, no debt.
UTPB was the best fit for me financially.
If your family makes $100,000 or less, your tuition and mandatory fees are covered.
Here you are part of the family.
Learn more at utpb.edu/FalconFree.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, with this special edition, a video podcast of the Kris McCullough Show. I'm your host, Monty Montgomery. Of course, along with me as the head football coach of the UTPB Falcon football team, Coach Kris McCullough. And, Coach, our next segment is about position battles. How do those go?
Yeah, I mean, it literally starts the moment we stepped off the field against Central Missouri. My mind immediately started thinking about the 2025 version of UTPB Falcons. You obviously look at who you lost and what you have coming back. I'm going to start on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, we talked about a minute ago, all the transfers on the offensive line. That's a position. We only have one person back that started a game for us last year at that position, Tyler Ball.
Okay.
So a lot of developing has been going on in that position this offseason. We got a lot of guys that were here that can play. Jarivis Bobay, Lucas Barrientos are two that come to mind that from the Permian Basin that have developed and have put themselves in a position to be able to play for us. And then all of these additions is huge for us to see what we got. The other kid that's back, Mekhi Pinckney, was going to be our starting right tackle last
Wagner
season.
University.
Got hurt in fall camp, but a kid that's been a leader for us since the moment he stepped foot on campus, and I was looking forward to his senior season last year. But a lot like Matt Zubiotti. Had to come back for an extra season that he didn't think about. Was a first-team all-conference guy. He's that caliber of a player. So the offensive line battle, it's going to be huge for us this spring. I mean, we're grading those guys out every single day when we start spring ball here the 18th, and that's going to be the one position I'm looking forward to the most. See who's going to come out on top. Who's going to be our top 5. But the good thing now, I think we do have a top 8, 9, 10 that we can lean into, and hopefully we can have some rotations early on this fall when we start games to see 2 different pods go out there of 10 guys and see who can make it happen for us.
Is that something that during the course of a game you like to have those guys? So, like, you know, I always call our defensive line, it looked like a hockey shift change. We've got another defensive line come in, so there's everybody fresh. That's something you want to build up and be able to duplicate on the offensive line too?
Yeah, you don't see that much in college football. It's hard to find 10 offensive linemen to be able to do that. I would like to get to that point where that third drive of the game, have a new platoon go in and see how they hold up. That way, early on in the season, you're developing those guys in that game-like situations that we just talked about. We just haven't had the luxury of doing that here yet, but I think we're getting to that point finally.
Wide receivers?
Yeah, wide receivers is a position everybody kind of freaks out about when you lose the production of Deion Cook, Jeremiah Cooley, Laquan Wells, Gunnar Absek. That's 4 all-conference guys we just named right there from the wide receiver room. But you have 2 starters back there, all-conference guys, Traylon Sewell, Ben Patterson, both started games for us the last 2 years. Both are deep threats. Obviously, Ben Patterson's one of the best deep threats I've ever had in my career. He's going to play the slot. He's going to play outside some this year that he only played 1 snap of last year.
Wow.
And had a touchdown against West Texas for that first touchdown of the game. So those 2 are key focal points for us. But these guys that we just named, Jalen Tillman's a name everybody's going to know here in a few months. I think he's going to be a starter for us. But there's guys in the program that have been here, Jace Wyatt, Josh Little.
Yeah.
Those guys like that, man, they have continued to work their tails off. Jace Wyatt has completely transformed his body into 194 pounds of muscle. And we timed 40s last week and ran in that 4.5 range. So these guys, Josh Little, 4.47 guy at 210 pounds, these guys are going to be able to play for us this year. We're going to have – we talked about our depth at the receiver room last year. I think this year's just as good, just a little bit different caliber of players. Austin A is another kid that you could see right away. Diego Nunez, Aiden Serrano. It's a deep position that I'm not too worried about. Going to running back position, Corey Harris,
Senior year for
second
Corey.
team all-conference guy last year, honorable mention the year before that. I like to mess with him about the honorable mention in the second team, just not quite good enough for first team yet, huh, Corey? So he continues to work.
Wow.
He continues to work his tail off, but, you know, Cam Tyler's really had the best offseason I've seen out of anybody on our football team.
It's very quick.
I mean, he jumped a 42.5 vertical, an 11-foot broad jump, ran a 4.41.
He looks like a coiled spring.
Absolutely. He's done everything that we could ask for. So those two will be a true 1-2 punch. I will see those guys probably split reps right down the middle, just like Namir Harad and Corey did in 2023. That's the type of running back room we have. Bradley Perez is a kid who we redshirted last year but got in some games. That kid's special. I mean, athletic ability, he's one of the top 3 on our team probably.
Wow.
We just got to get him his football IQ of the game, getting him there. And we got some work to do, just continue to develop him. Juice from Permian, everybody knows Justice Laura.
Yep.
He's doing a great job of getting faster, getting bigger in the weight room. The kid works his tail off and is everything we could ask for. So those 4 are really feature points for us right now. And then bringing in Ryder, and we got a few more guys we're going to go get to build that room up. But I feel good about where we're at in the running back room, tight end room. Last year I felt like it was probably our weakest room on the offensive side of the ball. We didn't have a ton of depth. Losing Brock Johnson, we still have Jaron Hendricks coming back, who the back half of the season was injury. I mean, he played every single game on an injured shoulder, and it finally was too much, and he missed the last 2 games of the season, had off-season surgery on that. But once we get him back this fall camp, feel good about that. Caleb said again, Cash Walker, we talked about guys like that. But Geoffrey, OJ is a kid that's been developing, Kelby Castro, Landon Ross, kids that are in our program currently right now that are really attacking the weight room and getting better. I feel good about that position. I want to be 11 personnel, I want to be 12 personnel and run the football, and these guys allow me to do that. I mean, there's 4 guys right there that I just named that power clean 300 pounds, so I know they're explosive and they can come out of their hips. I feel good about that room for sure. And then we all want to talk about the quarterback battle.
Yeah. It's going to be a humdinger.
Everybody I see, that's the first question, how's the quarterback room look? You know, having a kid that was a true freshman that started the last 5 games, his first start of his career is on the road against top 10 program and beats them there. Didn't play great in the bowl game, but he's continuously developed. I mean, he's a true freshman, right? And that was his 5th start of his career. I look forward to seeing that battle between him, Christian Kapua, who came in and played against Angelo State and played in some fourth quarter action later in the season against Sul Ross in Eastern New Mexico, and then Kenny Gibson. We have 3 guys in that quarterback room that have started 5+ games at the college level. So we have 3 good options. It's going to be a true battle, and I'll tell you this, I'm not going to be able to name somebody until we step on the field against UCO.
Deepest quarterback room we've had since I've been involved with UTPB football, which was 2016.
Yeah, which is a good thing to have. That's the most important position, right?
Yeah, it's a nice luxury to have.
Absolutely. So that's the offensive side of the ball. Starting on the
Let's take a break.
Yeah.
We'll take a quick break, come back on the other side. This is a special edition of the Kris McCullough Show.
Don't just earn a degree, make an impact. At the University of Texas Permian Basin, you can earn your master's degree for free. To meet the shortage of behavioral health professionals in West Texas, we're covering tuition and mandatory fees for graduate students in clinical psychology, counseling, and social work. When you study an impact major at UTPB, your passion becomes your purpose and your paycheck.
And I'm your host, Monty Montgomery, along with Kris McCullough, the head football coach, University of Texas Permian Basin football team. And we're in the middle of his special edition of the Kris McCullough Show. And we are talking about position battles. We've just wrapped up the offense. Let's talk about the defense and special teams, please.
Yeah, so defense is the opposite of offense. Offense, we only have 3 starters back. But defense, we bring 10 back that started games for us. So that's huge for us. You know, this offseason, especially when we start spring ball, we have a lot of guys that are out on the defensive side of the ball, had to have surgeries at the end of the season. So it's going to be a huge development spring for us. You know, starting at the defensive line room, we got Austin Williams back, big nose tackle that is a tough one-on-one.
Dominant.
Yes, absolutely. Jacob Humphrey, Amari Bedford, those guys on the interior that have played a lot of snaps here for UTPB.
Nasty and mean.
So I'm excited for those three and continue to see them develop. But when you look at our edge players, in the last year, that's been a heavily injured group. Even Frank Mulapolo, who's an all-conference guy for us with one more year, is a guy that played all season with injuries. Malik Allen, we lost against CSU Pueblo, another kid that's going to be a huge piece for us.
He's got a purpose. He's got a look in his eye that is a little interesting because he missed out last year and he was not happy about it.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the kid that was 4 months post-op doing up-downs with the team. That's usually not supposed to happen after ACL surgery. But
If he could have played with that leg, he would have played.
absolutely, there's no doubt. But I'm excited. He gets another year of development, and he's going to be a huge piece. Darius Keck's another kid that we lost late in that season that is coming back, and he's going to have that little chip on his shoulder as well. But these young guys, seeing them develop, Jordan Lynch, Will LeBlanc, guys we signed last class that have just done everything right on scout team and continuously attack the weight room in the right ways. Gary Holmes is another kid that didn't play a ton of reps, but has gotten better every single day that he's been in this program. So we're going to see these guys develop and see what they can do for us. Malik Cousins, another freshman that we don't talk about very often, but we signed last class, and I mean, this kid just squatted 600 pounds the other day. So these guys have attacked the weight room, and they've attacked our program in every facet that we've asked them to do it in the right way. So I'm excited to see them develop, and then see these young kids that we signed this class. And we're going to go get a few transfers as well. But I think when we get to it, we'll have 10 or 12 guys on that defensive line room that can play for us. I have no idea who's going to be our starting four, though. Linebacker, Tristan Exline, we know he's the starter, All-American. I mean, the kid's special. But finding out who's Jalen Rockmore's replacement, I mean, that kid, he's tougher to replace than Hayden Kelly was.
Oh, yeah.
And that kid could do everything. I mean,
He was a coach on the field.
he made a remarkable catch interception against Central Missouri, playing Tampa 2. I mean, he all 6'2" of his frame got up in the air, and he made a great play. But it's tough to replace guys like that. So it's more by committee. You got the Eric Francos, the Trey Yannis's. Devin Green's a kid from this past class that we signed that has had a really, really good offseason. And I'm excited to see these guys get on the field. We're going to go live 8 times this spring, which is what the NCAA allows you to do. I want to see these guys hit. And spring's a great time to do it. So that linebacker room is where we got to develop and get better and grow our numbers. With this high school class, we signed, I think, 4 or 5 guys in the linebacker room. We're going to sign a transfer, which we already signed. We announced Gabe Ponce from Butte. We didn't talk about him on that list because he was such a late addition, but he's a guy that has the talent to be a Jalen Rockmore for us. So looking forward to the battles in that linebacker room to see who's going to be our second guy. And the defensive backs, let's start at corner. Jelani Jefferson, first team all-conference guy. He's one of the better corners I've had on my football team before. He's good. He's special, and I'm excited to see how his senior year is going to take off. His junior year, he was special, but he missed a few games to injury and sickness. So let's see how that senior year is and see if he's going to be the dominant force that we think he can be. Outside of him, you got Correll Coney. You got Kendrick Jones. Kendrick Jones is a kid that played the last 2 seasons here with us. It's very special, but both of those guys can play our nickel position as well, our interior slot position. So we feel good about those 3. The rest is unknown in that corner room. A lot of guys who don't have a ton of experience. Avon Lawrence is a kid from Aledo, Texas. We signed last class that has continuously to develop. I gave him a real challenge in our December meetings to meet the standard of what we're trying to do. And that kid's worked his tail off and done everything I asked him to do, and probably had one of the better spring weight room programs that I've seen a kid have here. So very proud of his development. Now let's see if it translates to the field. David Vaz, another kid from this last class that we had that played in some games actually for us. We need those 2 to develop and give us some depth in that corner room along with the other guys we have. And then talking about safety, I think that's probably our most deepest position on defense. I mean, you're looking at Jamarian Ravenel, who was a state championship MVP at DeSoto, had a lot of injuries last year, but played on some injuries. And then He actually got hurt his freshman year here, my first year here. But that kid's a leader, and he's a coach on the field. Nick Butler is a true freshman last year, played really, really good down the stretch. Those last 6 or 7 games played really well for us. So he's going to be crucial for, let's see how he develops and how good can he get in year 2. Uvoski Cunningham, his last year this year, Muff is his nickname, started those last 4 games for us, and it's going to be a good player for us. So looking forward to seeing him. Lane Horak, who we just spoke of. Champ Mathis is a kid who missed last season because of injury. Was our second leading tackler in 2023. Guy that can play in the box, can play that rover safety for us. We just got to find a spot for him. But that room is deep. And then you got some young guys that are continuing to develop in our safety position. And then specialists, we talked about it, Angel Diaz and Gabe Agura. Obviously, Angel started for us last year as a true freshman. Gabe was dealing with some family stuff and couldn't play for us, but that's going to be a huge competition. You know, that's the one position I'll say, truthfully, I haven't felt great about the kicking position, our field goal kicker, since I've been here. We've just been inconsistent. We have to be more consistent to win at a championship level that we want to. So seeing those two and how they feed off of each other and how they compete against each other, and then along with these few freshmen that we signed, that's going to be a huge battle that we have to see.
Okay, and that wraps it up for the defensive special team segment. We'll be back on the other side with our next segment, which will be spring ball.
Check, a 1, 2, I'm going in, is that a L? W is still a win. Got it off the muscle, all I know is hustle. All I know is making something out of nothing. What you think they see it? I had to hop in the kitchen, I'm really on fire, you know, ignited, yeah. I know some people don't like it, I'm moving with flavor, they probably a bite it, yeah. Trendsetter, being better, I can't take the credit, yeah, wait. Been on fire, boy, that's flambe. Only time you see my head down is when I'm praying. When my back is turned, the only time they wanna see.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Monty Montgomery, along with the head football coach of the UTPB Falcon football team, Kris McCullough. And, Coach, our next segment deals with the spring ball. Let's talk about that. What is the purpose of spring ball, and what makes it so important to a program like ours?
Yeah, we've talked about it so much already. It's just the development of these guys. You know, they have such a huge uptick going into a lot of these freshmen going into their second season because of spring ball. They're getting a lot more reps. They're not doing scout team. It's all of our stuff. So we really, as coaches, can gauge and judge these guys and see really where are we at right now as a program going into summer, going into fall, and is there key holes that we still have to fill? That's what spring ball tells us. We really work on the inner fundamentals of who we are as a team, offense, defense, special teams. We really start to identify those leaders in our program. I have a leadership council of about 8 or 9 guys. We start identifying those guys through spring ball and through these workouts that we're going through. But these 15 practices are crucial for the football piece of it. How good are we at linebacker? How good are we at the offensive line position, which we're all looking at? All of the answers to our questions naturally happen in the next 15 practices that we're going to have.
So you get a total of 15 practices for spring ball.
Yeah. So practice 1 starts March 18th that we just talked about. Every Saturday we'll have some version of a scrimmage, whether it's just a spot the ball period or situational scrimmage where we go through third downs or red zones or coming out periods or 2-minute situations, 4-minute situations, all these things that scenarios that we see in a fall game, we start talking about here in the spring. So we'll go through all that, but Saturdays are going to be huge for us to see these guys just play football. Like, just spot the ball. Let's see if you can tackle. Let's see if you can make somebody miss. Let's see if you can block somebody that's about to hit your quarterback. And for our quarterback battle, getting these guys live, I mean, a quarterback's completely different in 7-on-7 than he is when the bullets are firing.
Oh, yeah.
Those guys running at his head. So we're going to go live as much as we can to see these guys. We're still going to try to avoid injury, which is something natural that happens in sports. But for us to see who's the best guy to lead this football team, it's going to be through spring ball, being alive and letting them do.
Theory is one thing. Practical application is another.
Absolutely. But that's all these position battles we just talked about. Unless we go live, we have no idea what these kids can do. You know, I always mess with our defensive line coaches when we're in practice and in fall camp and throughout the season. We're doing these good-on-good periods. It's always funny to see the defensive linemen say, sack. They just ran by the quarterback. That doesn't mean they touched the quarterback. They didn't take them to the ground. Quarterbacks make people miss all the time. As an offensive coach, that gets annoying. So you take all of that out of the equation. You got to tackle that guy to the ground, which when you have athletes like we do on both sides of the ball, it's fun to watch. So spring ball is going to be crucial. It all comes to a close with our spring game, which is also our junior day for our class of 2026 recruits that we're starting to recruit now on April 12th. We're going to do that at Ratliff Stadium, 1 p.m. kickoff. We'll start all of our festivities for junior day that morning with some visits of campus and our facilities and all that. But looking forward to the next month and what this football team is going to look like now compared to then. I think there's going to be a huge uptick in how we feel as coaches and how we process what this team looks like and what we need still to go as far as the transfer portal.
So if I was a high school kid that's a junior, interested in playing for UTPB, how would I get a chance to participate in the April 12th, that Saturday, April 12th, junior day at Ratliff Stadium in Odessa?
Yeah, all of our coaches have started reaching out to their high schools. We have local areas for each coach, whether they have an area in Dallas or Fort Worth or Houston or San Antonio, wherever it may be in the state of Texas. Our coaches are reaching out to their high school head coaches and getting the list from them. We'll send it off. We also use Twitter DMs to message guys we find on Twitter. But if they can play, if they're a class of 2026 guy, we're going to find them. And if we haven't found them yet, feel free to reach out to us for the information on that day.
They can go to our UTPB football website for that?
Yeah, it's all over our social media as well.
Okay.
And there'll be a link for a questionnaire where they'll fill out everything for junior day.
Okay, so just for our audience, just to recap, the spring training starts March 18th on Tuesday, and they practice March 19th Wednesday, then the 21st Friday, and then the first Saturday, the 22nd. Then they start back up March 26th Wednesday, the 28th Friday, the 29th Saturday. Then they're off until April 1 Tuesday, April 2 Wednesday, April 4 Friday, April 5 Saturday, and then April 8th Tuesday, April 9th Wednesday, and April 11th Friday, with the culmination of Junior Day and the spring scrimmage April 12th Saturday at legendary Ratliff Stadium.
Yeah, and we'll practice from around 3:30 to 5:30 all those days except Saturday. We'll go in the morning time. Let these guys come in, probably have a 9 o'clock practice, get them out by 11 o'clock, and let them have their Saturday off.
Okay, super, except for Saturday the 12th, which is April 12th, which will be a 1 o'clock for the final.
And you'll see
spring
all this
schedule.
information on our Twitter page and Facebook.
Okay, super. All right, we'll be back in a moment to wrap this up with the discussion on next fall's schedule. This is a special edition of the Kris McCullough Show.
Come cheer on your UTPB Falcons as they compete in 14 NCAA sports. The best part? Admission is free. Don't miss a single hit, goal, home run, basket, or any minute of the action. Visit UTPBFalcons.com for schedules. Falcons up.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, with our final segment of the special edition of the Kris McCullough Show. I'm your host, Monty Montgomery, along with the head football coach of the UTPB Falcons, Coach Kris McCullough. And, Coach, we're going to talk about the 2025 schedule, and it's a doozy. Yeah. And we start off with our hair on fire at August 30th at 6 p.m. at Astound Broadband Stadium in Midland against the University of Central Oklahoma of Edmond, Oklahoma, a team that is ranked, I think, number 2 in the nation in the preseason polls.
Yeah, there is a poll out there that has them number 2. I think they finished top 10 last year. They lost to Ferris State in the playoffs. Won the MIAA. You know, our super regions just changed. It is now us, the GAC, the MIAA, and then the RMAC. So our region got a little bit tougher.
Northern Sun moved out. We got a Great American Conference.
Wasn't already tough enough.
I mean,
we didn't have great success against the Northern Sun, but then you replace them with the MIAA. Then you bring in Harding and those cats in the GAC that I faced when I was the head coach at East Central. So it's definitely not easy, I'll tell you that. And starting with UCO, it gives us a true region test. First game of the season, it really helps us gauge where we are as a program and where we are for that 2025 edition of the Falcons. You know, we've always played top 25 matchups early on in the season. 2 years ago, Western Colorado at their place. Last year at CSU Pueblo to start that second week of the season. This year, UCO, it's not going to be easy task. They have the best receiver in the country. The quarterback threw, I think, for 3,800 yards. They have 15, 16 starters back from last year's team. They have one of the best head coaches in the country in Adam Dorrell, who won national championships at Northwest Missouri State. I have a ton of respect for their staff, know those guys. Being in Oklahoma for 5 years, I always wanted to play UCO, never got the opportunity because the MIAA and the GAC were locked conferences. But now getting to play them, they have incredible facilities, great program. I look forward to seeing how our guys are going to respond to that. Luckily, there's plenty of time between now and then to get ready for them.
All right, next up then on September 6th, this will be our first away game, road game. We'll play a team we played last year from the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference, Adams State and Alamoso, Colorado. They've got a new coach, I'm guessing, and new coordinators, staff. I'm guessing they flipped the roster somewhat. Not going to be the same team we saw last year.
No, not at all. I've never won in the state of Colorado as a head coach.
Tough place.
So Adams State, it's going to be a different team, like you just said. They hired the defensive coordinator from West Texas A&M to be their head coach. The offensive coordinator from West Texas went there to be the offensive coordinator. They're going to have a completely different roster. So, we usually share film before we start the season with our first couple opponents. There's no doing that. They don't have game film.
Right.
So
do you look at WT's film to get kind of a gauge on tendencies and whatnot?
Yeah, a little bit, but we're just so focused on UCO. I'm not watching anybody else really. But Adams State, it's not going to be easy to go there and play them on the road, but looking forward to that matchup. But I know those coaches are going to be ready to go. The only film we're going to have is their first game against Western New Mexico the week before us. So we'll have one week of games to really look at those guys and see how we can attack them. So hopefully Coach Hickman over at Western New Mexico has a good game plan and helps us out a little bit.
So how do you prepare for the altitude at Alamoso?
To me, it's nothing like Western Colorado.
Well, that was absolutely the biggest challenge I've ever had.
Even for you,
Yeah,
huh?
even for us calling the games, for crying out loud. Yep. Thought my broadcast partner was going to pass out on me.
Absolutely. And, we just have to be in shape. And it's going to be a tough fall camp to get those guys in shape, ready for the first game. When you play in Texas, we're going to be practicing in 100-degree weather all the time. But it still is not enough for the elevation. You can't prepare for that. You just hopefully we have enough depth on our football team that we can rotate early in that game and keep those guys fresh.
But that's an advantage we even see in the NFL with Denver, with teams that go to play there because that's Mile High Stadium, because it's actually 5,280 feet high. They struggle too, and they have the oxygen. Will we have the oxygen and stuff on the sidelines for the guys?
Oh, absolutely. It'll be just like we did against Western Colorado 2 years ago.
We'll get one of those in the radio booth too, if you don't mind.
I'll drop one off for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And then the next game, we're on the road again to a place that I swear UFOs land in the end zone. There's all kinds of strange stuff that happens. I love Kingsville, Texas. I love going down there and playing the Javelinas. But it is absolutely a circus when you're down there. Their fans are hanging from the rafters. They do not like us, and it's kind of mutual. And I expect you've not been there yet. Strange things happen there, Coach. I got to let you know right up front.
Yeah, you said I haven't been there yet. That's the one road game I have not gone to besides Western Oregon. Haven't been there yet as a head coach. So I'm actually looking forward to it.
Great experience.
Kingsville's tradition and history is one of the best in Division II athletics in any sport. But having 3 NFL Hall of Famers from the university there, the fans are crazy. They're throwing tortillas. You got a train running around the stadium with kids in it. I look forward to it. And they have a new staff there. Scott Parr is the head coach there now. I knew him from his time as the head coach at Navarro Junior College. They're going to be an air raid team. They have a hashtag, throw the damn ball. Usually you hear run the football. No, those guys are going to throw the ball 60 times.
Wow.
So it's going to be a tall task for our defense. Scott Parr's a guy that scored 50, 60, 70 points in games as a play caller. So we're going to have to be on our toes, and our offense is going to have to play a lot better than we did last year against Kingsville. Their defensive coordinator is still there, Jeff Bish. He's one of the best defensive coordinators I've had to go up against. So it's going to be a tall task. It's going to be tough.
So we go from the high altitudes of Alamoso, Colorado, and then we come down to Kingsville, Texas. This is similar to the spring of 21 when we played at Western New Mexico and we had a game in a blizzard. You couldn't see across the field. The snow was going so badly. The next Saturday we're in Kingsville and I got sunburned. So I went from looking like the Michelin Man, dried, just bundled up beyond belief, to standing there in shorts and all and frying. And that's exactly what we're looking at the possibility here. Still a little cold weather in Alamoso with the humidity because the ocean is right there in Kingsville. How do you prepare for those kind of different weather issues or the difference, or is that even a consideration?
Yeah, the good thing is we have a bye week right before that, so we'll have 2 weeks to prepare for Kingsville. Okay. But I mean, it's hot here. The humidity is different. I mean, I'm from Arkansas, so I'm used to the humidity. Right. But we can't really prepare for that. There's nothing to really help us with that. So really, we just got to prepare for what their schematics are, their offense, their defensive scheme, and make sure we're prepared for that stuff.
And I'm sorry I left out, we do have an open date, September 13th. So between Adams State and Kingsville, we have a week off. Do you like having a week off that early in the season?
Absolutely not. I really liked how we had it last year, where we played 9 games and then had a bye week and then played those last 2. And had we won against Western Oregon, we probably would have made the playoffs, and that would have been a perfect bye week heading into the playoffs to get our guys fresh. But what I do like about it is you play your 2 non-cons, you really figure out who you are as a football team, and then heading into Lone Star Conference play, you have an extra week there to prepare for the air raid, and Texas A&M Kingsville is going to be a well-coached football team, and it's going to be a tough road test.
Next up, after Kingsville, we're back at Midland Stown Broadband Stadium against a team that is just always a bit of a fist fight, and that's Midwestern State.
Yeah, I mean, well-coached. Obviously, they had Billy Maskell, who was a legend of the Lone Star Conference. Mm-hmm. I think he's second all-time.
D2 football.
I think he's second all-time in Lone Star Conference wins in his career. His former DC is now the head coach there. Coach Renner's a great man, first and foremost, but a great coach as well. And, they had some staff turnover, and they're going to the air raid as well. They hired a young analyst from Texas Tech University who's going to run some Zach Kitley schematics, who I know pretty well. So they're going to be a fast tempo, throw it around the yard just like Kingsville is. So back-to-back weeks, our defensive backs have got to be locked in and ready to roll.
They're gonna need a little oxygen at sea
absolutely.
level. Yeah, absolutely. Then after Midwestern State, we make the biannual trip to Angelo State, which the last time we were there, they were very unhappy with us, and then they came back this year and came back to Midland and won that game. So this is always a hard-fought game against 2 programs that kind of got a little chip on their shoulder about each other.
Yeah, I think, the last 2 years, Angelo State, UTPB, we're both at that 17-win mark, I believe, 17, 16 wins in the last 2 years. Both programs have really succeeded expectations the last few years, winning the Lone Star Conference and getting to the level that both programs are. Jeff Gersh is probably one of the best coaches I know. He's going to have those guys ready to roll. But I've been fortunate to be at Henderson State with the Henderson State-Washita rivalry, East Central, Southeastern Oklahoma rivalry. It's pretty heated in those games. But I've never been on a away trip and been told so many different names and
Not with Mr. in front of them.
No.
Yes.
So I love the atmosphere. That's what college football is.
Right.
That's as a head coach, you love that.
Right.
And our guys love that type of atmosphere. So I'm excited to go back to San Angelo and have a night game there again. And last time we were there, it was a pretty special night. So we got to replicate that. But we got a long ways to go to catch up to what Jeff Gersh has that program rolling at right now.
Last 2 Lone Star Conference football champions, us in 23, them in 24. So it ought to be a heck of a contest. Yep. All right, after Angelo State, we come home and we have our sole game at legendary Ratliff Stadium in Odessa. We're bringing in Central Washington University, who might have a little bit of a grudge with us after we beat them, upset them. They were number 9 team in the country when we went to their home place in Central Washington last fall. They're going to be on a mission.
Yeah, another program that has such a great head coach that I have so much respect for. Just a winner, man. They're always in that title hunt. They're always in that playoff hunt. In the last 2 years, they had a shot at the playoffs. And a game against us where we beat them in 23 at home. Then they played Angelo State last year for a conference title. Lost that one in the last second. Man, they're a good football team, and they're definitely going to have a grudge match against us the last 2 seasons, beating them both at home and beating them here in Midland. So playing them at Ratliff will be awesome. But it's a matchup I'm definitely looking forward to.
Then after we play Central Washington University, we make our long trip to the Pacific Northwest, where we play Western Oregon University in Monmouth, Oregon, which is a beautiful field. I don't know if they still have natural grass or not. I didn't know if they'd gone to turf. It's a natural grass field. They left it a little long because, you know, that's what they do sometimes to slow down fast teams. I don't know if they'll do it this time, but it is a unique setting. Stands on one side, kind of the old polo ground look, if you will, with poles supporting the awning on the home side, about 3 rows of stands on the visitor's side, and just a beautiful, beautiful setting, beautiful place there in Monmouth, Oregon.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that trip. Never been to the state of Oregon. I grew up an Oregon Duck fan, which is crazy being from Arkansas, so always wanted to go to Oregon. Looking forward to that trip. But a football team that came to our place and just beat the crap out of us. It was a close game, and it went to overtime, but it really wasn't close.
They were massive.
We didn't have an answer.
No, they were
to
massive
stop
on the
them.
offensive line.
We couldn't move the ball on them. They were well coached, and what they do with the budget that they have is pretty special. So we just talked about a grudge match with Central Washington. That may be our grudge match because that kept us out of the playoffs last year, losing that game. So our guys, when we get to that week, I'm sure they're going to have a good week of practice.
Well, one time there, Hayden Kelly, our all-everything linebacker, when he was playing, had about a 35, 40-yard interception for a touchdown that sealed the win for us, and we had to fight like the Dickens till the end. So they're very, very competitive at home too, and it'll be a fun trip. It'll be very interesting. Next up, after Monmouth, Oregon, we return home to play West Texas A&M and Midland at Astound Broadband Stadium, and again another school that we have somewhat of an intense rivalry with, WT, and it's very competitive. And I'm guessing since one of their players is with us now, it's going to make it even more interesting, perhaps.
Yeah, West Texas. I mean, that when you think of the Lone Star Conference over the last 20 years, they're one of the teams you think about. So anytime you play them, it's always going to be one of those games you want to go win. Last year played at their place, and what an atmosphere! What a
Incredible stadium.
Yeah, that stadium's fabulous.
It's been the D2 Stadium of the Year since I think it's been open 8 years or something like that. It's
but
phenomenal.
it's going to be a team that's different. New DC, who's on staff but was a defensive backs coach. New offensive coordinator, who we just faced in the bowl game from Central Missouri. So
yeah, he moved from Central Missouri to WT.
Yeah, so different team, and I think that's week 6 or 7 next year. So it's going to be we got some time to figure out who they are, but definitely want everybody circles at UTPB. Everybody wants to beat West Texas, right? So because of the location and the history of that place. So I look forward to that game.
That wraps up the October schedule, and then on the next week, November 1st, we travel to Silver City, New Mexico, 515 miles one way to Silver City, New Mexico to take on Western New Mexico University. Absolutely beautiful town, beautiful campus, very nice stadium, seats about 3,000 people, and a very long bus ride. Normally we stop at New Mexico State or UTEP to work out. Is that something you think we'll get to do again?
Yeah, I think we'll have a very similar setup as we had this 2 years ago. My first year here, may stop at UTEP this time around, but look forward to that trip. There's nothing there, but it's also a pretty cool stadium to play in.
It is, Ben Altamonte Stadium.
Our guys like playing there, so that's always a good thing when the guys want to go on that trip. But Coach Hickman's a good friend of mine, and look forward to going back to Silver City.
Stands on one side. They have the scoreboard actually is across from the home stands. No stands at all on the visiting side, just the visiting team there and all their operations. And it could be snowing there November 1. So that's something, too, you got to keep in the back of your mind because they are kind of in the mountains. So a little different scenario.
I do like this about them. As a coach, when you play in games, that's 4 hours that you're not even thinking about a bathroom. They have a porta potty right behind this.
Yes.
That's always nice to have.
Yes.
That.
Yes, it's a long run from the radio booth. I got to tell you, that's how I judge stadiums is how far is it from the radio booth to the facilities?
Yeah.
Yes. Yep, absolutely. Don't get in the way. Next up then, November 8th at Astound Broadband Stadium, we get to play Eastern New Mexico. We went to their stadium last year, a beautiful facility. I really like that stadium. If we ever build one, I'm thinking something along those lines might be good. If we can't duplicate WT, I like Eastern Stadium. It's a bit of a interesting game with them. There's not a lot of love lost between the two programs, and they really get after it on the field.
Yeah, it's triple option. It's always tough. I mean, the triple option, we're so focused on UCO, but you have to talk about the triple option in spring ball and fall camp. You have to discuss like what we try to do against the triple option, because if you just go all season or all year long and don't introduce that until the week before you play them, you're going to struggle against them. You have to have your ducks in a row when you play the triple option. So it's not easy. Whether it's home or on the road in Portales, it's not an easy game. So Kelly Lee does a phenomenal job with the triple option, and it's going to be tough.
And then we wrap up the regular season November 15th at Astound Broadband Stadium against Sul Ross State University, and we both agreed that Coach Derrickson last year probably should have been a candidate for Coach of the Year, considering what he did with the limited resources they have. They have 3.5 scholarships for football. You get 36 in D2, and I thought they had a pretty darn good season for their first year in D2 and what he was able to do. Unfortunately, he's moved on, and we have a new coach. Do you know him?
Yeah, Coach Lee Hayes, well known in the state of Texas, has a pretty good career, been at Texas Tech, Baylor, been at some top-tier programs, been a high school coach the last few years, but getting the opportunity to be a head coach now. I've talked to him a few times, talked to him at Lone Star coaches meeting day a few weeks ago, but we've actually talked on the phone a few times. We even talked about possibly scrimmaging in the near future in the spring.
You can do that?
We can scrimmage other people in the spring. It's just a tough location for us. It's hard to find somebody outside of the Lone Star Conference to come to Odessa or for us to go there in the spring, just because it's such a long ways from
Could you do it halfway?
We could do it halfway, but we're not going to do it this year with it being his first year, but in the near future we will. But
That'd be very interesting.
Lee Hayes is a good dude. That game, I mean, that's going to be senior day for us, and hopefully it's not our last game of the season, but looking forward to playing those guys again.
And that wraps up the regular season, and then the following weekend starts the playoffs, hopefully, that we're involved in November 22nd, with the national championship game being December 20th at McKinney ISD Stadium in McKinney, Texas. Overall, Coach, I think this is an excellent schedule. I think our non-conference games are two of the better ones we've had in a while, and I just look at the way the program has progressed under your coaching tutelage and how we are competitive in all these games. And as a guy, again, who's been with the program since 16, I want to say thank you. It's so much fun to sit there and lock horns with these guys and be competitive.
Yeah, and this schedule is not an easy one.
No,
it's the hardest one UTPB's had in the fall. I mean, we got 3 top 25 preseason top 25 teams. We probably got 3 top 15 teams preseason that we have to face, but that doesn't take away from the other teams either.
Right.
Every team on this list could probably be in the top 25 by the time we play them.
Absolutely.
So it's not going to be easy. But I like you said, I like the non-con schedule, having a top 25 team here at home to start the season to really gauge where you are. I think they're going to be number 2 in the country preseason poll, so that's going to be huge. And then going on the road to Colorado at Elevation. We talk about adversity a lot in our program. So getting these adversity-filled games early on in the season really sets you up and tells you how your team's going to respond in the back half of the season, where you start talking about conference championships and start talking about playoffs and all of that. So looking forward to this 2025 edition of the Falcons. but we got a long ways to go, and a good thing there's a lot of time because we got a lot of developing to do to figure out who this team is, who our quarterback is, and a lot of those position battles we already talked about.
Thank you, Coach, so much for this. This is going to wrap up the special edition of the Kris McCullough Show. I want to thank Coach McCullough for being here, and of course, our producer engineer, Brandon Warr, who has done an outstanding job for us in putting this together. Thank you, Brandon. And we look forward to seeing you all at the spring games and this fall. Falcons up, everyone.
Falcons up.